everyone, I am Grandmaster Rafael Leitão from Brazil, and in this series I'm going to show you some complete repertoire for black in the Najdorf defense, which happens after the moves e4, c5, d4, and here a6. The Najdorf defense is one of the best defense possible for black, and it has been played by world champions such as Bobby Fischer and Garry Kasparov and many other strong players, Topalov, Anand, and it has served me well for many years also, and I have a large experience on this defense, and I hope to show you the most important variations and make you confident to play this line with black. We are going to, first of all, we are going to understand the main positional and tactical themes of this defense. So in my introduction, I'm going to talk with you about which are these important themes that you should be remembering whenever you play the Najdorf. And then we are going to move on to the most important variations. First of all, bishop g5, which is the most concrete approach, most tactical one. You should memorize some variations after this line, and I'm going to suggest an interesting, slightly offbeat way of playing against this line. Then we are going to analyze deeply the English attack with bishop e3, very fashionable line where white wants to play with f3, queen d2, and then play for checkmate. After that, we are going to analyze the line popularized by Bobby Fischer, bishop c4, and also a dangerous line played by many strong players. Then we are going to analyze the most positional approach, maybe bishop e2, favored by Anatoly Karpov. And you have to understand very well how to play these lines in order to get a nice position to play. You have to understand some important details to play this line with black. These are the main lines that we are going to cover, and then we have a special chapter dealing with all possible sidelines for white in this system. White can play many other moves, such as, let's say, a4, dealing with the advanced b5. It's more of a positional move. Such moves as bishop e3, but contrary to, do not playing the English attack, but playing with knight f3. This is also going to be covered in the sideline chapter. We are going to deal also with f4, which is another offbeat way of playing, and also g3. Many white players in the Sicilian like to play fianchettoing his bishop, and it's also a position, more or less positional line, which we have to understand very well how to play against this. And last but not least, we are going to deal in the sidelines chapter with a fashionable move has been played recently by many strong players, which is h3, also popularized by Bobby Fischer. White wants to play g4 and so on. And with this, we have covered all the important variations of the Najdorf defense. I'm going to suggest complete repertoire. I'm going to suggest some novelties and new systems, and I'm going to explain the main devices, and I hope that for every one of you who wants to play the Najdorf defense, after watching this series, you are going to feel very confident, and you are going to have nice positions on the opening in your tournament practice. At least that's my wish. So good luck for your studies, and I hope you like this DVD. Whenever we learn a new system, it's very important that, apart from specific variations, that we understand very well the idea, the philosophy of the system that we are studying. So for this reason, it's very important that before delving ourselves into concrete lines, we should take some time to understand what are the main ideas of the Najdorf defense. Why does black play a6? Which are the main structures possible in this defense, and what are the main tactical themes? This is very important because without this knowledge, if you only try to memorize variations, you are not going to understand deeply this line, and whenever your opponent changes some small move order or make some different move, you are going to be lost since you are not going to understand what the position asks, and you may get in trouble if you don't understand that. For other point of view is that what I like, something that I really like with the Najdorf defense is that if your opponent, if he does not understand the nuances of the position, and if he does not place precisely, by following some basic strategical play, understanding the main features of the position, you can very fast get a very good position and even better position and win on, as I say, automatic pilot. I have won many games on the Najdorf defense by just playing the basic in a basic way, since my opponent was not very well educated on the correct way of playing with the white pieces. So the first question we should ask ourselves is, why does black play a6 here? What's the main idea of this move? And basically, what black wants with this move is it's a sort of waiting move. Black prepares under the long run the advance b5, so this move is useful in this respect. But the main idea is that, suppose in this position that black plays e5, the problem with this move is that white can go bishop b5 check here. And this is a very annoying check, since we cannot play knight d7, for instance, because of knight f5. And if we play bishop d7, then, well, probably white can exchange bishops immediately. And basically, we do not want to play this kind of structure without our light squared bishops, since these squares actually are quite weakened. So the main idea, the classical idea of a6 is to prepare the advance e5. So this move e5 is the typical Najdorfian move, and this is the first thing that you must learn, because many players play the Najdorf and they don't even understand what is the basic idea of the mysterious move a6. Next, it's very important for us to understand the main structures in this line. So I have selected a few of these main structures that you are most certainly going to face one of these positions in your tournament games. Let's say this position, for instance. This is a classical structure after black has played e5. Well, basically, this is the kind of thing that has provoked debates for many years on the Najdorf defense, whether this move e5 is good or not, whether white can exploit the d5 square or the d6 pawn, which is backwards. And this is the kind of thing that we have to deal with the Najdorf defense. Of course, in this square is quite weakened after e5, but we are playing that because black wins a lot of space whenever we play e5. And usually we get a lot of compensation with our activity. Of course, you have to be careful not to allow, for instance, one knight, white's knight, to go to d5, or not to exchange every piece and remain only with the bishop on e7, which is very bad. But as long as you play you make use of the freedom that this advanced e5 gives to your position, you are going to be okay. You just have to be a little careful with what pieces you are going to exchange and whether white's knight is ready to go to d5 or not. So on these details depends the evaluation of whether this structure is good for us or not. Another classical structure is this. After, well, for instance, in this last structure, it's the same as suppose white has played here f4 and we have exchanged. So this is, we arrive at this structure. It's also quite interesting. Black has this, well, both of them, both white and black have isolated pawns. Black has this slightly backward. White has the e4 pawn also weakened. And white has a little bit of space, but black usually gets counterplay attacking this e4 knight or putting some knight on e5. This is a very important outpost in this kind of structure. Well, and white also wants to place his knight on d5, and there is a kind of equilibrium also in this position. Another important structure is this, also with our basic structure on e5 and d6. This happens when white plays some knight d5, and black can usually exchange this knight with knight on f6, or sometimes with a bishop on e6, and we arrive at this structure. In this case, our plans are well defined. Black is going to advance his majority on the king side, and white is going to advance his majority on the queen side. So black is going f4, f5, f4, e4. White is going c4, b4, and c5. This is the basic plan, and also it's a kind of equilibrium. I like to play this structure a lot of black since, well, if we advance our majority on the king side and this works, then we can checkmate. If white advances on the queen side and this works, he just wins our queen side. So if we arrive at the same time, we're going to win the game since we're going to checkmate. So I have very good feelings for this position for black. We are now going to see some important tactical themes that you should learn very well in order to defend correctly on the Najdorf. The first important tactical theme is the thrust knight d5 that white can usually play in many positions, especially after b4, but in some cases even without b4 this can be a very dangerous move, as we can see from this theoretical position. This move knight d5 introduced by woman world champion at the time, Maya Shiburdanidze, and this is a very strong move because in some cases, especially when white has some rook on e1, you cannot accept this knight since you are going to be under a severe attack. So the thrust knight d5 is an attacking possibility that you should be aware, and in many cases this is the correct way of white to continue. Another important tactical theme is the move e5, which you are going to find in many situations when you have the pawn on b5 and white has his queen on f3. This can happen in this system with the bishop on c4 and going to b3, and also with in the main line with bishop g5 when white has played f4 and queen f3. You should always be very careful whether white can play e5 or not. In this diagram, for instance, white is just winning after the move e5. So whenever we play b5 and white has a queen on f3, I'm going to be repeating this many times in these videos. You should be very careful whether white can play e5 or not. The classical exchange sacrifice on c3 is also an important counterattacking resource that black has in many positions. Even when white is castled kingside, as in this case, my game against Venezuelan master, Even in this case, it's possible to sacrifice. Most common when white is castled on the queen side and you are going to sacrifice in order to achieve an attack. But even in this game, I played rook c3 and d5. This was a very interesting sacrifice, and I achieved a good victory with this rook takes c3. So remember that this exchange sacrifice, whenever white has to exchange to take with the pawn, it's sometimes we can create a very nice compensation by playing like that. And another important resource is the d5 thrust. We should be always trying to do that, and white should always be avoiding this move. And as you see here, this is also a game of mine and the Brazilian Championship in the end of 2010. And against an experienced player, and he allowed me to play d5 here with black, and I'm already better. This was an English attack, but he forgot about controlling my d5 counterattack, and I just achieved a good game. So basically, this exchange sacrifice, rook takes c3, and the d5 central liberation are very important resource for black in achieving a good counterattack. So these are the main features, both strategical and tactical, that we should learn about the Najdorf defense. You should really see many examples, trying to understand that, and try to learn this basic approach, these important features. And with this knowledge, we are ready to move on to specific variations, where you will see that all this that we have seen, the sacrifice, the d5, exchange sacrifice, all this is going to appear in the following variations.